Hello, you've reached Gloria with Farmstead Talk, and I am here today with Kelli with Florida Food Forestry, and he is representing his state of Florida in this homesteading interview today. Welcome, Kelli, and thank you for joining me.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for joining me. So, Kelli, would you like to share with the audience where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, sure. My Instagram is Florida Food Forestry, and that's where I'm posting all my escapades regarding growing my own food, permaculture, and my first year food forest.
Okay. So, if you would share a little bit about yourself, where you're currently living, and who's there living with you.
Sure. So my name's Kelli Kodama. I'm 30 years old. I'm in a 3-bedroom house with my wife and my 3 boys, age 6, 5, and 4. We are very busy. My wife has a Great Dane rescue here, so we have lots of dogs. And we're in Port St. Lucie, Florida, where, the dogs have their backyard and I have mine. And I've been able to grow some pretty delicious food over this last year, ever since I separated the dogs from my yard. So they have their side where they can have fun and they can tear up the yard, and then I have my side where I can grow in peace.
Okay, so share a little bit about the population of that area and what the community is like there.
Yeah, Port St. Lucie's, it's a pretty big city, I guess you could say, not like a metro city, but it's 200,000 people that live here. It's all residential, pretty much. Out west, there's a little bit more of open space, but for the most part, it's a large suburb with, your standard American residential housing.
Okay, but it's coastal living.
Yeah, absolutely. Where I live is kind of right in the middle. I have to travel 20 minutes north or 20 minutes south to get to a bridge and cross intercoastal to get to the coast.
Okay.
But yeah, we're right on the edge of 9B and 10A. So I think 10A is considered subtropical, and then 9B is not.
Okay. So what gave you your inspiration to want to live a homesteading lifestyle?
Yeah, I came down to Florida and I just wanted to start over. My health and my nutrition was something that I was always invested in and interested in. And then I kind of grew in my spirituality, and I saw the chance to grow my own food and participate in something like permaculture as a way to just get connected with my spirituality, with my health, my nutrition, with nature. Being outside was something I always loved to do. So that was my inspiration, is just wanting to do something that I could be involved in that would benefit me and my family for all those reasons.
So where were you born, and where did you come from when you went to Florida?
Yeah, I was born in Boulder, Colorado. I lived most of my time in Brighton, Colorado, which is kind of east in Colorado on the plains. I stayed there until I was 20. I had some circumstances where I made a major life decision. I got wrapped up in addiction and alcoholism, so I came down to Florida for treatment, and it worked, and I stuck and stayed. And I love Colorado, don't get me wrong. I love the mountains. I love the winter. I love snowboarding, all of that. But Florida, I loved the weather. I loved that it was warm year round. I could skateboard year round. And then once I got into growing my own food, I realized I could grow my own food year round too. And that was something a lot of the United States didn't have. So I saw a lot of value in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you say you're zone 9B, 10A, there in Port St. Lucie. So what are you actually growing, and what kind of growing methods are you utilizing?
Sure. Right now I'm growing a lot of cherry tomatoes. I just had a large harvest of those today. I have about 15 different vines, 2 different kinds. I'm growing a lot of kale, and then I'm growing some tropical trees, fruit trees. Loquat is a delicious It's kind of like a mix between a cherry and a tangerine, if you've ever had one. And maybe a peach too. It's fuzzy and it's got a pit in the inside. I'm growing bananas, 2 different kinds, just your standard. I forget it all of a sudden. And Namwa banana, and I can't remember the normal banana that everybody gets in the grocery store. I'm growing some mangoes. I'm growing papaya. Papaya has turned out to be extremely easy to grow. What else do I got? Some ginger. I have turmeric, sweet potatoes. They do really well down here. I'm growing some regular potatoes, red russet potatoes as well.
Which is very odd for Florida to grow potatoes.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about how that has been successful in just a minute.
Okay, sure. One thing I love to grow is it's called Chinese red noodle bean. It's this, or they also call it yard long bean. It's a bean that almost is a yard long, and it's delicious. I love using that for fixing nitrogen in the soil, and they also call it asparagus bean, so it tastes like asparagus as well. I have, what else do I have? I have some broccolis, a moringa. I'm growing moringa for all different types.
Why don't you, let's talk about moringa for a minute and what its health benefits are.
Sure.
And the ease of growing that.
Yeah, sure. So that's why I got into it, is for the health benefits. If the health benefits are insane. I was just talking to a friend, and it's the most nutritional plant that I've ever found. It has like a whole lot of protein in it. I don't know the quite numbers, but it's got more vitamin C in it than oranges, like 2 or 4 times as much vitamin C, something crazy. It's just loaded with nutrients.
They say that it's the plant that's going to save the world from hunger.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're starting to really grow it in third world countries for all the individuals that have malnutrition, and
yeah, it grows really well, and it's, you know, the nutritional benefits and eating it. You can eat the flower. The flowers are extremely tasty. I don't know if you've had a chance to try the flowers
I
yet.
have not.
They're these little white flowers. They have a little crunch to them, and they taste like horseradish. They're quite spicy, but they're really good. The bean pods I haven't tried yet. I know people eat those too. I mostly just use the leaves as a smoothie, or in some stews, or with my eggs, just saute them in my eggs, stuff like that. It does have a spice to it, so you have to kind of think about that when you're cooking with it. But besides the nutritional benefits, it's a great plant for food forestry. It grows 40 feet in the first year if you let it. And it's just so productive. You can take these leaves during the rainy season, all these green branches, and chop them off the tree and put them right back down on the floor of your food forest, and it'll feed the soil. It also fixes nitrogen, so you can plant it close to other trees. And when you do that chop and drop, those roots next to the other trees will then die off and provide nitrogen to the trees surrounding the moringa as well. So I'm using it extensively in this first year because I'm really just focusing on building that soil and providing some layer of canopy. Eventually later, when my tangerine tree and my mango tree and all those other trees start to really grow and become bigger, they'll take over in the canopy layer. But for now, it's going to be my moringa trees.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm also trying my hand at a fence, a living fence in my front yard. I just did it this weekend, and hopefully I can weave them together and they'll bind together. I've been able to bind some of it successfully before, but I want to bind it together and make basically like a picket fence in my front yard. And then, during the rainy season, they'll grow its offshoots, but then I'll chop those off, and I'll have more mulch for my food forest.
How are you propagating those trees? Are you starting them for seeds, or are you doing cuttings?
I'm doing it from seeds. I purchased 10 seeds online, and I was able to get, I think, 10 trees. I think I had 100% germination rate. None of my trees are producing seeds yet, but I was interested in finding more nitrogen fixing trees, and I learned about them. They're always, they have like a row of leaves that have offshoot. The branch has offshoots off of it, and each offshoot has a row of leaves on the side. So if you look for that in a plant, you know it's a nitrogen fixing plant. I saw one of those in my neighborhood. It was quite large, and it was making large bean pods. And I know bean pods are another nitrogen fixing part of a tree. So I picked that up and I broke it open and I pulled the seeds out, and I recognized immediately that, oh, these are moringa seeds. So it's just down the street from me. That tree litters this house's yard with these bean pods, and whenever I need some moringa seeds, I just stop over there and pick some up, and I'm sure they don't mind.
Oh, that's great. Never-ending resource of that. So that's good. What are you utilizing for pest control and weed control?
Sure. So the pests I've had are aphids mostly. It's been my biggest problem, especially during the summer months. I'm having a little bit of that right now with my red Russian kale. They're really kind of just attacking some of the older leaves that I didn't harvest in time, so it's not too big of an issue. I'm actually not using anything to address those at the moment, but in the summer, the aphids really attacked my bean plants. So I was using a spray called Bee Safe. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. I think it's mostly just neem oil, but it's Bee Safe in it because it's safe for bees. And yeah, it's just a nice spray that I spray on the plants at night, and that's really it.
And did it work? Was it successful for you?
Not a little bit, but not really. I think part of my problem was planting too much. I didn't have the time or energy to care for them all and get ahead of the problems really before they became bigger problems. So I was working reactively instead of proactively. So next year I'll plant less bean plants, and they attacked some of my okra too, but it wasn't an issue with the okra. The okra was able to outgrow it, and some of the pods had some aphids, but I had way more okra than I needed, so I wasn't really concerned. So yeah, I bought like a concentrate of it, and I've barely used a quarter of it. I'm not using it that much. Yeah, I'm not too worried about the pests so much. You know, if I want to find stuff that can tolerate it, and my hope is I've been focusing on heirloom varieties so that I can seed save. And if I'm trying to grow something that's just not doing well because of pests or what other reasons, I'm not too interested in continuing it next season.
Makes sense.
Yeah. For weed control, I'm just using wood chips. I am using wood chips for basically everything, but they certainly help with suppressing the weeds. The weeds that do grow in the wood chips don't really do that well, because when the seed germinates, it's not germinating in soil, it's germinating in the wood chips. So they're really easy to pull out of the wood chips. Yeah, that's it. I do need to do some weeding. I have an asparagus bed that I'm planning on getting to today. It's a trench about 6 inches down in the ground right now. It's got some weeds in it. I'll dig that out. I'm going to lay some compost in it, and then I'll probably lay one more cycle of compost, and then I will mulch on top of that, and then I won't have an issue with weeds much at all anymore.
What has been the biggest success and challenge in your garden, would you say?
Well, the okra, again, okra was something new to me coming to Florida. I actually had never even tried it until I started growing it. I saw it being sold at like state fairs and stuff like that, but I know my wife loved it, so I figured I'd try my hand at growing it. And speaking of the wood chips again, I I'm getting them from a tree company, and they just drop them off in your front yard. If you don't remove those from your front yard, the city's going to fine you. So I had to get them out of my front yard, and I just laid a massive pile, a massive stretch of wood chips all along my fence on the right side, the south side. Eventually, I moved those wood chips away, left a pretty thick layer, and I sowed my okra seeds into the spot where that mulch was. And I think that because they were right next to the fence and they didn't get the morning sun, they had to really stretch and grow. But that little bit of difficulty for them actually gave me some very massive plants and very, very productive plants. One of them grew to about 11 feet, and I actually still have it up back there now.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So I saved the seeds from that one. It pretty much just grew tall and straight. And then I saved the seeds from another one that grew out and bushy. And next year, I'm just going to use those two plants, and we'll see what kind of genetics I get from those two. So that would probably be my biggest success. Sweet potatoes have been very rewarding. I love sweet potatoes, get a lot of calories from them. There's just something about digging them up out of the ground. I'm going to continue to grow those. I actually just found one this morning. I have, your traditional sweet potatoes, and then I got some like very beautiful decorative vines from the nursery. They make like purple and yellow and green leaves, but I don't think they are that tasty. So I've actually never tried the potato from them. But anyways, I took those out of the food forest because they weren't considered food to me, and I've been putting them in other places in my yard. And I'm walking on a path today, and I kicked something at my feet, and one of those potatoes actually came up out of the ground. So nice little gift today. I'm going to try that potato later, and we'll see how it is. If it's delicious, then I'll start growing those ones as well.
So that's some pretty nice successes. So what about challenges?
Challenges? Well, my banana rack is still on the plant, and it just seems like it is never going to ripen. It probably will, but it's like dangling a carrot in front of a rabbit that you can never get. I'm just waiting for those things to ripen. So I don't know, maybe it's just me being impatient, and maybe that's the challenge, but I'm afraid we did get some cold temperatures this winter, and I read that those will really affect the way a banana rack matures. So mine produced right in, I think, the beginning of December, and we didn't get frost, but I think we got in the 30s a couple of times. So I think, that was, I guess, a failure, but not really, because
Nothing is a failure. It's always a learning experience.
Yeah. And that one banana plant has given me so many pups that I've got that one, another one. So I have 4 from that one in my house alone. And then I've given plenty of pups out to friends too.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I want to go back to a previous question, and I don't think that we finished all the way, and we touched on how you're growing, but what gardening method are you actually using?
Yeah, sure. Permaculture. I'm using wood chips, and that's it. Not a monoculture. I'm growing a variety of foods that I can, as much as I can.
So you're growing into the ground, not in raised beds, and so you're growing into your soil and just covering the soil with wood chips.
Yeah, that's right. In the beginning, I used cardboard as a what do they call it? A weed mat. Yeah, barrier to kill that grass underneath, and you can just break that cardboard out and plant into the soil and your wood chips around. But I stopped doing that because I realized if you lay just a thick enough layer of wood chips, it provided the same effect.
Okay.
And you'd get more compost down in that soil as well. No raised beds. I wasn't interested when I started this. I wasn't interested in spending a lot of money on it. I really wanted to do something fulfilling for me nutritionally that would give me more yield than I gave into it. And I just try to focus on keeping it a closed loop system as much as I can. There's a lot I'm not doing to close the loop, but maybe one day I'll get there.
Mm-hmm. Do you currently have any animals on the property?
Yeah, I have a rabbit.
Okay.
I harvested a bunch of kale today, and some of it wasn't so good, so he has a massive pile of kale to get into, and I use his manure in my compost.
Okay. Very good. Have you ever had any other types of farm animals or livestock?
Yeah, I've had chickens in the past.
Okay.
They're great. Same thing. Just I love using their manure, and having their eggs is awesome. I want to do that again, but I don't think I'm going to be able to until we get our property. We hope to get some property a little out west where we can do more of the homesteading stuff. We would love to have goats. We would love to have horses, the cows, the whole thing.
Yeah. Everybody has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So what other types of sustainable practices do you utilize under your roof?
Sure. Recycling, obviously. Making my own compost, saving my kitchen scraps. And then I try to repurpose as much as I can. I try not to waste. So, like I said earlier, we have 4 Great Danes. My wife runs a Great Dane rescue called OZR Great Dane Rescue. And we have tons of dog crates, more than we need. Some of them are, not really in use anymore. They're too small, or we don't have all the pieces or whatever. So I found I'm growing these cherry tomatoes, and those things are vines. They don't want to be in a little tomato cage. I found that these large dog crates make perfect tomato cages and trellises. Also for my sweet potatoes, they love to climb up these dog crates. So I'll just put those right on top of the wood chips and let the tomatoes take over.
Are they wire crates?
No, they're like small steel bars. I guess maybe they're wire crates. Yeah.
I mean, they're not the plastic ones.
No, they are metal, correct.
Yeah, the metal ones. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I just try to repurpose. I had some old chain link fence gates. We got our fence redone, so I kept those, and same thing. I'm using those as trellises for the beans. My work, I do supply for my work, and the supply companies often leave crates behind. So I use the crates for a bunny enclosure. I use the crates to make 2 spots for my compost, one that's active and one to.
Are you talking about pallets?
Yeah, pallets.
Pallets.
I'm calling them crates. Yeah, exactly. And I also, not so much anymore, but before I really got into the food forest, I was more focused on woodworking. So about a year ago, I stopped focusing on it so much. I'll do some woodworking to help out some friends, but I built some like saloon doors for a gate in my house. I built a nice tabletop, like a cocktail tabletop, with the pallet, repurposed, reclaimed pallet wood. And I built to my friend another saloon door for his dogs recently. So yeah, that's something I really like to do.
If you could give advice to a person, a first-time resident, someone moving into Florida from another state about gardening or homesteading, what would that be? Advice.
I would say look into permaculture, look into using wood chips. It's really easy, especially if you don't want to spend a lot of money. You can call arborists and tree services, and they will drop the wood chips off to you for free. And research everything you can from David the Good. He knows how to do it in Florida, and he makes it really easy to understand. He has a YouTube channel, and he's written several books on gardening in Florida specifically. And, just to boil it down, the main thing I learned from him was grow what grows here. Focus there first. And then you can start to do some of those other things that, I'm more used to eating broccoli and cabbage and cauliflower growing up in Colorado, and Brussels sprouts, but those things have been harder for me to grow here. So I've had to kind of adjust my diet and try these yard-long beans that I had never seen or heard of before, and bok choys and different things like that are very delicious, but I wanted to be successful. So I took his advice there, and I grew what grows in Florida.
Yeah, and it's what an opportunity, that you are living where you're at, that you can grow all this tropical fruit too. So that's amazing. That's awesome. So every location has their benefits. Yeah.
I saw recently, I wish I remember the gentleman's name, but he was actually in Colorado, and I think he was maybe 10 or 12,000 feet up. And he had a greenhouse where he was growing mangoes, bananas.
I've seen that too.
Yeah, so many tropical fruits. Really cool.
Yeah, I can't remember who he was either, but he had a really, really nice greenhouse system. So,
yeah.
Okay, getting ready to wrap up. If you could sum up in one word what your homesteading experience has meant to you thus far, what would that word be?
I would choose connecting.
Why is that?
It's connected me to a community that I didn't know existed. I mentioned earlier that I like to skateboard. My biggest inspiration in this was a gentleman that has a Instagram page called Greenhouse Homestead. His name's Connor. He's a skateboarder. I had seen him at the skate parks down here in Florida. I didn't really know him that well, but watched him on Instagram, saw him start his own Instagram channel geared towards growing his own food, and I really just followed his coattails. So I've gotten connected into a community of other permaculturists and growers down here in Florida, particularly through Instagram, all different types of people. But then connecting me back to nature, a way for me to connect spiritually, a way for me to connect in my health and my nutrition. So yeah, that word I think kind of sums it up for me.
Wow, what a great word. Kelli, thank you so much for spending time with me today on this interview. I really appreciate it.